myself involved in something that I'm don't need to be involved in. Although this is what happens when the police don't get the message, and I don't think they still have gotten it. I mean, they came right to the protests and started with more unnecessary force against people just driving down the road, leaving the protest. They was leaving. They got in their car to leave, and the police broke their windows and pulled them out, tased them. Those police officers are now jobless because of that stupidity and this attitude that the police have, that if you don't listen to them, that they're going to, rough you up. This is the attitude that the police have nowadays. That if you don't listen to them, they feel like they've been disrespected, and they're gonna get you, especially if you're black. And I don't even think they care if you're a woman. They punch women in the face nowadays. The cops do. They tase women, and if you're not doing anything, this young lady was just sitting in the car. They broke the windows and tased her. And they always want to pretend like they're afraid that someone's going to shoot them. There's no gun in anywhere around. Nobody has a gun or nothing. But somehow the cops are afraid all the time. I think maybe we have some of the wrong people on the job if they're constantly afraid of everything, so that they have to shoot people or beat them up or tase them when they've done nothing. It's one thing to take dangerous criminals, which they don't seem to do, actually. We've had a lot of mass shootings in recent years, and either those guys end up killing themselves before the cops get there, or when the cops get there, or they surrender and the cops treat them real nice. The cops treat people who are doing nothing, like they're the worst scumbags on earth, roughing them up, beating them, shooting them, putting knee on the neck, killing them. And mass shooters get the royal treatment. You get treated like you're the best guy ever. We're sorry, the cops look like they're apologizing to these mass shooters when they arrest them. But some 9-year-old kid playing in the park, they'll just gun him down because he's black, and they were afraid. So maybe we just got to start running a psychological, giving the cops a psychiatric evaluation, because they seem to be a little bit nervous to be a police officer. I know they're human beings, but you got to be a little bit braver than that and stop saying, I was in fear of my life. This person was resisting. That's not what the video shows. Okay, you weren't afraid. You just ran up on the situation and pulled your gun out as soon as you got there. There was no fear. You started beating someone or spraying them with mace and tasing them as soon as you got there. But anyway, that is the top headline of the week. George Floyd being murdered by a police officer in Minneapolis. And it has moved the coronavirus out of the top spot of news. So riots are going on in the streets of every major city in America, and curfew is on. I don't know what the curfew is, but it's well past the curfew. I think like 9 o'clock or something. It was curfew. People are still walking around chanting, protesting. So, yeah, I don't agree with the looting and the burning of the buildings and the destruction. knocking people's windows out of the business, tipping over cars, and all that is nonsense. It doesn't accomplish anything. I don't think. Just makes you look thuggish. But it's all started, man. And I don't think the president has said anything. I haven't heard anything that he said except for when the looting starts, the shooting starts. So there's the wise statements coming from our president. No speech addressing the nation, trying to calm the situation, just ridiculously idiotic comments coming out of the White House when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Like I said, this looting is nonsense. It's stupid. But I think the president might be able to come up with some guidance that's a little better than quoting some racist jackass from the that was something that some racist guy said 100 years ago. The president is quoting some idiot, but it just tells you where his mind is. But anyway, we're going to take a break. And I promise you all the politics and the events of our lives will not cause me to take up an entire hour talking about important things that affect all of us. We're going to take a little break, and maybe I might be compelled to talk about something else when we come back. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this.
You're listening to a man who's so sexy it's completely ridiculous. Mr. Anthony Scott Dover. Yummy.
All right, we're going to try to move on. It's difficult. It's extremely difficult to not talk about George Floyd and what happened to him, which has led to all the rioting, the protest, and multiple protests all over the country, and multiple nights. They're still protesting tonight. So I started this show on Sunday, and I paused it, and now it's Monday. It's 6/1, and a lot of the cities, major metropolises, have posed a curfew that is not being followed by the protesters thus far. So, not exactly sure what's going to happen, but we'll stay tuned and find out. We'll stay tuned. It's a crazy time. The president came out and gave a speech earlier today, stood in front of a church. Wasn't actually invited to the church, but that's okay. He's allowed to. It was a church in D.C. He had the Army and the Secret Service push the protesters away out of the area so the president can go out there for a photo op. He had a Bible in his hand, and he stood in front of a church holding the Bible up. And one of the reporters asked him, "Is that your Bible?" And he said, "It's a Bible." So I guess that meant, no, it's not his Bible, but it's a Bible. I don't know what the intent was behind that. But that's what happened. The president's posing in front of a church with the Bible in his hand. I think he's trying to make his base feel like he's a religious guy. Although he doesn't ever seem to go to church, actually. Every now and then, though, he talks about it. But I think that's just for political reasons. It's not an actual thing with the president. I could be wrong, but he spends most of his time on the golf course, it appears, and just in the White House tweeting. So, breaking news. We'll keep you posted. Not really breaking, though. George Floyd was murdered over a week ago, actually. And the protests broke out just a few days later. The murdering officer, Derek Chauvin, has been arrested and charged with third-degree murder, I think it is. Third-degree murder. I don't know what the difference is as far as, sentencing or conviction. Difficulty in conviction or none of that. But I do believe that's what he's been charged with. A lot of the protesters are wanting the other 3 police officers that were there and did not stop Officer Chauvin. That's his name, I do believe is Chauvin. Derek Chauvin. But anyway, the other 3 officers that were on site, on the scene at the time, they were not charged with anything. It's just the one guy who actually done the murdering. First we had murder hornets come to the States, and now we're back to just murdering police officers, which is a shame, to to protect and serve is what the police officer's motto used to be. They had that on the car at one time, to protect and serve. So everybody would see that, and it sticks in your head. And now it seems they don't even care about that sentence at all. To protect and serve. So, I don't know. We shall see. In other news, besides coronavirus, some of you said you were tired of talking about the coronavirus. Others of you said you needed to talk more about the coronavirus. But this George Floyd thing has moved the coronavirus over to the side. Now we have pandemic and protests. And it's a weird time for America. So